I think we're going to kick off with Baltimore because of all the changes and stuff that are in place. And don't be surprised if the first one runs a little over 10 minutes. You remember our format from yesterday, the projections and the changes and stuff like that. So we'd love feedback on that. For those of you that are watching, it seemed like it came off pretty well to me. But we're always open to listening to the Wolfpack, positive and negative stuff. So let's kick it off.
Yeah,
let's go with
see things clearly. I'll try to zoom in like I was doing yesterday as I move in through things and show you some of the research I've done. But if things aren't popping up clear or questions arise, let us know in the comments. Of course, any questions you have not related to projections, I'm happy to answer as well. Whether it's after the stream in the comments on the video, or if it is during the live show, be happy to answer those as well. And of course, as you're watching, if you enjoy what you're hearing, that thumbs up really does help us get out there and get to more people. So please do consider hitting that for us if you're enjoying the show.
Yeah, and lastly, on the interface part of it, I'm going to throw the banners up here, but I'm not going to keep them on the screen.
Yeah, they'll get in the way.
We want to be able to get as much of a look at this as possible. You ready?
Perfect.
All right, let's do it.
Let's start with Baltimore, huh?
Yeah, Baltimore, big changes. New play callers. Lamar Jackson did his song and dance. And still got his money, and he's back. And we're gonna see what happens. They signed OBJ, right?
They did sign OBJ. They drafted Zay Flowers. They drafted Rashad Bateman, and they've made a huge change at offensive coordinator. So we have a ton of changes to break into, as you were getting at. This is going to be the hardest one to break down because it is a lot of speculation. What's going to happen? How are all his talent going to mix and merge into Todd Monken's system? So I say we just dive right in. I love Todd Monken. I'm a huge believer in this guy. I think he's definitely acquired a lot of the interesting pieces he's going to need to deploy that air raid style bomb and out attack, which is very uncommon for the Ravens. As you can see here, I projected this team for 590 pass attempts compared to 475 rush attempts. That is a huge, substantial jump. I'll just go to the team level here, down in the research here. That would be a significant jump. They have not thrown it nearly that much. Only one other time, 635 in 2021. Lamar was hurt for a lot of that. That was just a mess of a year. But otherwise, as you can see, 440, 430, 503. It has been just a sluggish. Greg Roman even used the word medieval to describe his offense, how he wanted to do it. He wanted to be medieval and run it down your throat. That's the opposite of Todd Monken. Already in early practices, and granted, I know their practice reports. I understand this is not real football, but everybody's talking about how much of a faster pace the offense is going at, how he's coming out there bringing an energy that they never have had under Greg Roman, and just in general, how often they're airing it out. Remember, he's ranked 16th, 3rd, 4th, and 19th in pass attempts. We covered that on the quarterback ranking show, on the tight end ranking show. Anytime we're talking about anything Ravens related, I want to reiterate that this guy, Todd Monken, has definitely been much pass happier compared to Greg Roman, 32nd, 9th, and 28th in pass attempts across his 4 years calling the plays here in Baltimore. And that's historic with all of his trends in the 49ers, wherever he's been. He loves to just run the damn ball, slow the clock down, play into your defense. The opposite is true of Todd Monken. They were the 4th slowest pace last year. The Baltimore Ravens were. They're significantly below league average in plays run. I think they're going to definitely, at minimum, hit that middle bar in pass attempts and in plays run, and maybe even pick it up more than that. Lamar Jackson already saying, I love this offense. It's like a college feel to it. And speaking of college, Todd Monken has been at the college over the last 2 years with the Georgia Bulldogs, the best offense in the league the past 2 seasons. 501 yards last year, 40.7 points per game last year as well. And the offense he was orchestrating, I get that it's college football, but it's also the highest level as well that he had some great success with. So I expect this to be more than league average plays, definitely more pass happy than we've come to expect from this Ravens team. Let's kind of talk about how that will trickle down into these players. Of course, it all starts at the top with Lamar Jackson. And I've been off the guy for pretty much his entire career. I missed that one huge MVP season. I didn't fully buy into it and really haven't been hurt by not buying back into that across the last 3 seasons. I'm ready to get back in, though. I really do like Lamar Jackson. I think this will be his best shot at coming close to those MVP levels again, given that, yes, they've talked about how we'll run it less with him. We're going to more. That often does lead to broken plays, and the broken plays are often some of the biggest running plays for QBs when everybody else is deep downfield defending this air raid, and suddenly he sees a lane. Shoot, I can't wait to see what Lamar does with that. So, yes, I bumped down his overall rush attempts. He's been around 160, 170 in his career. We can even look and get those exact numbers for you. So I bumped him down a little bit below what we've come to expect. I believe he's been at like 150 or so the last couple years, and he's missed a few games there too. So yeah, after missing games, he was 111 last year, 133, 175, 175, 156. So yeah, I have him on the lower side, but I think that's just going to potentially even boost that yards per carry with those broken plays. Still think you're a good bet for 600 to 800 rushing yards, about 4 to 8 rushing touchdowns, depending on how many times he calls his number at the stripe there. So I definitely still see him being involved as a runner, even with a pass happier attack. In fact, I almost think it benefits him for that broken play narrative. Now, in addition to that, for the run game, I do think J.K. Dobbins takes the lion's share of what's left. I project him for 44% of the shrinking ground pie, but that should be plenty for a guy that's averaged 6.0 and 5.7 yards per pop. I think that goes down a little bit with more volume, but still, I think 5.4 to 5.7 yards per carry, very reasonable for J.K. Dobbins within this offense that should generate just more space around for everybody, including the backfield. So I think J.K. Dobbins will be in a good spot, assuming he can get healthy. When he came back last year, he really he didn't look all that healthy. He didn't look incredibly with that. He had such good breakaway speed when he's fully ready to go. And yet he still averaged 7 yards a pop. I had great vision, was finding the exact spots he needed to go. And then when he was trying to kick it into that next gear, he just wasn't hitting it. Now, assuming he can get that gear back with an offense, offseason to rehab and all that, I could see Dobbins really, really thriving as the featured back in his last game in the playoffs. A nice 20 fantasy points, had 5 catches, 43 yards and a touchdown as well to show some good receiving involvement. And they did talk about how in these early practices, Monken's been thrown to the running back a whole lot more. That was something that under Lamar Jackson we hadn't really been seeing. So this is another outlier. I'm kind of projecting 53 targets for the running back. We haven't seen a running back top 45 under Lamar. Nobody had more than 33 catches in a Lamar Jackson-led offense. So this would definitely be something different. But early on, they're definitely throwing to the running backs often in practice. We've seen that in his Bucks and his Cleveland backfields. He liked throwing to the running backs a lot as well. Todd Monken did. So a good receiver, J.K. Dobbins. It's not for a lack of ability they have been using him. Just schematically was not the thing. Lamar would more often run it and that's kind of the case with mobile QBs a lot too. They don't dump it off. They kind of run for the first down themselves. So that's where I see him, pretty solid overall season, around 1,300 total yards, around 9 touchdowns and a big spike in catches would make J.K. Dobbins a very viable target in that round 5-6 range when you're looking for running backs. I haven't drafted a ton of them because I end up with a lot more Joe Mixon, and we'll get to him in our next team. I really, really like Joe Mixon at his price tag right now. But I still really do like Dobbins. So it's not a matter of not liking Dobbins. I just like players going around him a little bit more. Other than that, I know we talked about a bigger aerial pie here. And so that does benefit everybody, but you hinted at the top. Odell Beckham's now here. Zay Flowers, the first-round rookie, has been drafted. Rashad Bateman's back and healthy, another first-round investment at the receiver position. So I'm expecting this to be, yes, a bigger aerial pie, but also much more evenly distributed. I have still Mark Andrews at the top. If you look at like Monken's past attacks, they've been much pass happier, even than what I'm projecting here. Jameis Winston leading the league in attempts and passing yards and feeding a ton of people. So we've seen, I think this best compares to the 2019 Bucs, where there was Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, who's a sophomore. They had Adam Humphries, who was killing it out of the slot for them back in the day. There's a throwback name for all you guys out there, Adam Humphries. And we saw Todd Monken there distribute the rock fairly evenly, but across all his years with the Bucs, Mike Evans was always at 136 or more targets. He kind of did have that alpha there. We also then saw in that 2019 season, rather, that was the 2018 season. 105 targets for Humphries, 95 for Godwin. The tight ends combined for 97 targets themselves. I see something similar here where maybe it's Andrews at the tight end position playing that kind of Evans target hog role. We've seen Monken craft his Georgia offenses around the tight end. I definitely could see him leading this team. As you guys can see here, with 20% target share, 118 or so targets. And then the rest just kind of right all around each other, because I don't know which of these receivers, if any of them, are truly going to separate from the rest. They're all really solid. I love every single one of them as a 2, and every single one kind of has that upside to be a 1 if they are the one to step up. I more so picture this like a 1A, 1B, 1C situation where they're all pretty damn solid. I'll just draft whichever one's cheapest, and right now, that's Odell Beckham. And we're not talking, of course, about Nelson Aguilar here at wide receiver 4.
Yeah, I'm sure
those surely not talking about him, even though he apparently was the highlight player. Can't fuck off. I'm not worried about that. But 17%, 16%, 16%, and 20%. As you can see, In years past, it was Mark Andrews 25%. And so a much more evenly distributed pie here, even though it's bigger, that does kind of cap a little bit of the ceilings for these guys. But I think you got a lot of potential value. I guess Odell Beckham's looking really good in the early camps as well, according to Rappaport. I wouldn't be shocked if he returned to that like Rams form where he was looking like a beast for those final 5 games and into the Super Bowl. Whew. So either way, definitely all these moves suggest a must pass happier team. A little bit maybe less of Lamar's legs, but then the broken plays also contribute to that. Those scrambles and a nice evenly distributed passing attack that I think really takes the next level. Now, if they don't get to that, bigger pie, or Lamar doesn't have the arm to actually sustain these things, we could be in trouble. I don't think there's going to be any real debate about how this will be pretty evenly distributed. Just a matter of how big is that pie? Is it Lamar able to sustain it? And right here, clearly I'm betting on that he will, but that's not a guarantee. It's the truth. What do you think of all this Ravens talk?
Well, I mean, it's interesting. All this talk about I'm always dubious of anything coaches say, as you know, and I'm dubious of most things players say, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But by all accounts, like the energy around the place is improved. I love how you described how they used to play as medieval, because it was absolutely. I guess that you didn't coin that phrase, but I like that you brought that up.
Their own offensive coordinator coined it for them, actually.
Right, because they were such a boring team. I'm staying away from Ravens who aren't Lamar Jackson or Lamar or maybe Mark Andrews. I mean, I agree with how you assess the receivers. I didn't know how you were going to break them down, but to me, I was just like, I don't think any of these guys are going to stand out. And I've always been terrified of the Ravens running back situation. And despite all the changes, I don't really see any change in that. I know you like Dobbins at his price tag. And I mean, if I found myself in a situation where I needed an RB and I only had one and I got to the 4th, 5th round and he was there, maybe I'd grab him. But I'm not excited about any of those guys. I'm more kind of, excited to just watch the Ravens for a few games this year than I am in a fantasy sense about them. We crushed Lamar last year. And then, as I've said on previous podcasts, he rammed it up our ass for 3 weeks.
We're real right.
Right. But then we ended up being right about it.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. Interesting assessment of the Ravens. I'm going to be interested to hear at the end of the show where you put them in the AFC North, because I've got them solidly in a specific slot already.
I know where I have him for sure.
Yeah, I do too. I know where I got him too.
What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.